All right, guys. In this third installment of my interview with Garrett Daun, Radical Life Innovative Consultant and creator of Command Z Academy, Garrett highlights a truly insightful process on how to transcend negativity and suffering. Let's get right into it.
There's 3 or 4 kind of milestones or steps. I like to call it the threefold path to transcendence. I don't like those terms. It was kind of fun to play with them, but threefold path to transcendence that I've kind of identified over like almost 2 decades of doing this undoing stuff, and then adding my own work and other teachers I've met along the way into it all. Comes down to number one. This has to happen before anything else can happen. I have some videos out on Facebook and on YouTube about this as well, these 3 parts in a lot more detail. But the first step is really come back home to the body. You have to come back home to the body. And probably even when I say that, you have a sense for what it means. When I say it to other people who even are in a condition of suffering, they usually feel relieved just by hearing the idea of come back home to the body, because just to hear it, you end up having to become aware that you're there in a body. And so you're here instead of off somewhere else. And when you're at home in the body, then your thoughts remain present. And the only time thoughts are ever useful at all and not horribly destructive and not horribly destructive is when they're aligned with the body and when they're aligned with the actual situation that's happening. Like if I'm sitting here and we're talking and some thoughts come up about what's going on, okay, that's appropriate. But if I'm sitting here talking to you now and while you're talking, then I'm suddenly thinking of something that's going to happen later or something that happened yesterday, that's destructive. It's taking away, and it's also causing tension somewhere in the body.
You can define like any type of thoughts that's not relevant to the current situation is almost destructive, because it's taking away your energy. And it's taking away your energy. It's put out what you want and progress the situation to the most you can. It's taking away from energy from that for really no reason.
Yeah, and it'll also keep you unaware of opportunities and surprises that are surrounding us constantly.
Right.
Like just some series of events over the course of the last couple of weeks. I ended up playing music at like a art exhibit kind of coffee bar here in town. I haven't even played a show anywhere for years. I don't remember the last time I did, but just through this series of events and experiences, and someone it came up. So, hey, you want to come and play music there? And then I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I practice and everything, get ready. But
nice.
If I was, thinking of everything or worried about things or not present at all, I don't think that ever would have come up, and I probably wouldn't have even been playing music in front of other people, so they would have heard it to even ask. So there's so many things that happen in my life every single day that are surprising, that I can't expect, that I used to not be aware of. And I know, because when I look back now, I see these times when I thought I didn't have enough money or opportunity, and I was really like, literally some nights I didn't have enough money to eat or anything. And I thought that there was nothing I could do about it. I really thought like, well, I guess this is it. But looking back, I had all these contacts. I knew all these people. I had all these skills. And I was in all these situations where I could have made money or traded for food or had a place to stay. Anything that I needed was always surrounding me. But at the times when that was occurring, I didn't know it. And so I didn't take any of those opportunities.
Wow.
I didn't even see them. I wasn't even aware of them. Looking back, I see how it was.
And that was because being caught up in your head, you have these ideas swimming around in your mind that you're focused on, and you're not focused on of what's actually happening around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you think I can't do it, I don't have skills, or I'm not good enough, even when an opportunity comes up, you're going to reject it before you even consider it, because you're going to think in your mind like, I can't do that, and you're going to be afraid to fail at it.
Right.
That'll all happen unconsciously, and then you won't even recognize that it was an opportunity. You'll just blow it off like, no, I'm busy that day, or I don't like that, or some rationalization.
That makes sense.
That seems true, when you really fall into your life, fall back into the body. So that was step one, come home to the body. Everything is different from there, because you can start to see and feel and know where you are and what's going on around you.
Yeah.
And become aware that you've actually been, in a way, taken care of by reality all this time. If you're alive now and you're hearing this, no matter what has ever happened in your life, you made it through. You've been taken care of. It's been okay. You had enough to eat. You had enough to drink, even if it didn't seem like it. So coming back home to the body for me meant also that I could start to trust the flow of life, the flow of this experience, that I don't have to know in my mind how things are going to work or that things are going to be okay, because they're already okay now. And they've been okay all this time, even when I thought they weren't okay, you know? Right. So then those are a lot of deep realizations you'll have coming back to the body. Yeah, there's no such thing as failure. There's no such thing as approval from other people or validation. In a context, there's validation. You can say, I can validate a business idea by trying to sell it to a certain target market. Okay, that's validated by the market. But see how it's in a context. Or like when someone says, that person really hurt my self-esteem. It's like, it's called self-esteem, you motherfuckers. It's self.
It's based on yourself.
You know, yeah.
It's what you think of yourself, not what other people think of yourself.
How can I affect what you think about you? So none of these, approval, when you go to bed at night, close your eyes, no matter how much approval you got throughout the day, it's still just you. So if you already don't evaluate yourself at 100%, no matter what happens, stop judging yourself.
Right.
Don't have any opinion about yourself, then it's never enough. And you see that with really famous stars, that they have to get over that at some point. Eminem is a good example just because he writes honestly. So you have a record of these developments over time.
Yeah.
Whether you like the music or not, but he's written honestly. So there's a record.
Right.
So you can see that at some point he came to terms with the fact that the guy that they all love isn't even who I am. It's like an idea of a guy.
Interesting.
And he came to terms with that and realized, okay, at some point he has to be cool with himself, because that's all there is, all you have at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I find it's interesting because I do feel like people like Eminem, they have this very good ability to kind of express these kind of emotions and these delusions even when they're having them. And I find that, that's probably one of the reasons why he's so successful, because if you're able to authentically bring out all of this stuff in such a raw form, then people start to connect with it because they on some level are going through the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a very useful and interesting artist in that regard. So that's step one, come home to the body, and that's going to make everything else make sense in your life. It's like, and a lot of times with that step, people end up having the experience like they thought they wanted to learn the guitar forever, but then they realize oh, I only wanted to learn that so I can meet women. Like, why don't I just go learn how to meet women, or just go meet women?
Interesting.
I mean? They never had any passion or drive to actually learn the guitar, but at some point they attached some other idea to it. Yeah. So I've seen some people quit something that they thought they wanted to do. They were just like, I don't even like the guitar. What the hell am I doing?
Wow.
And then other people I've seen and then sometimes they'll come back to it later. Like, actually, I do like it, but now I'm freed of this. It's not going to make me okay to learn the guitar. I actually enjoy doing it. And suddenly it's more free to do it. And there's not a lot of pushback. There's not a lot of challenge.
Okay. So it almost unties these emotional pretzels that people have when they attach to something, because they think they're doing something for one motivation, but it's actually for another one. And when they can actually realize that and separate it, then they're a little bit more clear about how to actually get what they want.
Yeah, then everything's going to be just more on the surface level. Like, oh, I want to go swimming because I really enjoy swimming, or I want to go run a marathon on the Great Wall of China because it seems it's something that just makes me feel alive. I love it. But there's not this sense of dismay and like, oh, I have to do another one. I have to do another one. I have to do another one. Like trying to live up to something their dad wanted, like it.
Right.
And it's not that you'll even necessarily understand that how it happened. It will just be undone. When you deal with it on the body instead of the intellect, it just goes away most of the time. If it's something you need to understand intellectually, then you will, but you're not chasing any understanding. It's not like the massive failure of most psychotherapy and the criminal failure of psychiatry, which is all built on a false premise that you are broken and you need some kind of healing and you need some therapy and you're a patient and you're being healed. That never works, because the premise is that you think you're not okay and that you're going to be made okay someday if you live up to these standards or whatever, or that you're so not okay, like with the lie of psychiatry, you're chemically and biologically not okay. I mean, what a disaster to the sense of self that is, to say,
no kidding,
your actual wiring is wrong and it's going to be wrong forever. So here, take these pills. They'll edit out the parts of your experience that are too hard for you to deal with,
Yeah.
And I've had people, and I don't tell people this is going to happen. I'm probably not allowed, but But I've had people that tell me later, I was on pills for years, and I came to the workshop, and now I don't take them anymore. And I can see, I still feel these things. I still feel the intensity of life, but now it doesn't matter like it used to. Like I thought it used to. The meaning of it is gone, even though they might still feel the intensity that they used to think was suffering. Now they realize that intensity is just almost like proof of life, that it's like intensity is part of life. So I describe anxiety as that. It's proof of life. You're living a life you probably don't like.
So that would be what the essence of anxiety is, where you're doing something or you're living your life that you actually don't want, and your body recognizes that dissonance between what your actions are and what you actually want. But even if consciously you don't understand it yourself, you're still doing these things that you think that this is what I should be doing or whatever, but your body's kind of like, no, you actually don't want to do this, or this is actually not something
it's like it's the yearning of the biological core that's trying to burst through and get your attention and let you know, like, man, I want to be running around. I want to be outside, or I want to be doing something else. I can't sit and do this shit for somebody else forever, or whatever the case may be. Or
gotcha.
You build a whole life and a career and a relationship off living up to something, and then you realize that you don't want any of it.
Right.
Of course, there's going to be some sense. So then you have all these structures in society built to ignore that. So the drinking and the avoidance and the,
like all the typical vices that I guess that people like people are able to sell to people to provide an escape, like alcohol, drugs, video games.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of these things get sold in that way, and it's a great business model, I guess. I mean, if you don't care about ethics, and it's a great business model because it's never ending. Because if the premise is that you're not okay, and that someday you can be okay, like the guru or like the teacher or like the influencer, then it's a never-ending stream of money, for the person who's in selling that stuff, because you can never be made okay. You have to realize you already are okay, even when things go wrong. You're totally fine.
Right.
There's no such thing as failure. Failure is an idea. It's a meaning that we put on things, but there's no failure. It took me like 6 years of trying to do business online and do workshops and things before I made any money on it. Now, if I had the right teachers, it could have gone way faster, but at the same time, I learned how to do everything, literally everything, about making a podcast or making videos or building a website. So, so in a sense, it wasn't a failure, but if I would have given up after 6 years, then I said, this attempt failed. But no, I had no sense of that. I had no idea. Like, I just was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'll try something else tomorrow and try it in a different way tomorrow. Write another article, do another post, get on another podcast, whatever it is.
Just do something and see what the effects are.
Yeah. And it's very interesting, this thing about coming home to the body. Like, there's some exercises where you flop over, and other exercises where you stand in a certain way above a mattress where it's inevitable that you're going to fall. And I think I saw that one first in an Alexander Lowen book, either in Bioenergetics or in The Way to Vibrant Health. I don't remember which one, or Fear of Life, one of those books of his. But it was that he'd have someone stand above the mattress in a way that they would have to fall. Your knees are kind of bent, and I'd have to show you, but it's inevitable that you're going to fall. And while the person was leaning in that way, he would make them say, I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to fall. And almost inevitably, at some point, they would start saying, I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to fail. And it would bring up this fear of falling is connected to this fear of failing. And so then when they would fall and land on the mattress, and they'd be okay, and you do it over and over and over again, it would actually get rid of the fear of failure, which is part of a physical tension pattern in the body. It's not an intellectual thing. So that's the first one, coming home to the body. And I'm glad we spent more time on that, because it's the most important part. Almost everything just can flow naturally from there. When you're not, if you put a chain around a tree or something and then it constrains it, or you put a goldfish in a small bowl, it can only grow so big. You move it into a larger bowl, it suddenly expands to fit that. And the same goes for our own evolution and our own natural human growth. If it's constrained by tension. And then there's correlation between the tension in the body and the lies and the suffering in the mind. So as you undo and break apart the tensions in the body, it automatically unravels the suffering of the mind. So that's the second step, which is end the fake suffering, end the suffering of the mind. Doesn't mean there won't be pain or intensity in life. It just means that you'll experience those as events that you can handle and deal with, and they don't have any meaning. It's the meaning that we put on events that creates suffering.
Wow. So someone is in a state of being able to, of always having this mental pattern of taking events and putting some kind of traumatic fear into them, versus what you're talking about, where you're just able to kind of take events as they come and as they are, and know that you can deal with them. How do you go from the first mindset to the other?
That's one of the failures of all this self-help and personal development, is people are spending years or decades on trying to change their thoughts, and you get into a real big mess there where you are I talked to one woman, and she was saying, well, I'm going to a psychotherapist, and I said, how's it going? Is it going okay? And she's like, well, I don't know. Yeah, it's good advice, but I just have to do better at applying it. And I was like, really, you sure that the advice is good, or what made you think that? You know? And I realized she just assumed, well, this person's an authority, so what they're telling me must be true.
Right.
And they say it's supposed to work for me, but it's not working. And I was like, why do you suppose it's not working? She's like, I'm just not applying myself enough. I'm not doing it enough. And I was like, oh, okay, well, don't you think if that was the solution, that it should work and it should be at least like applicable to you? If the person's telling you to do it,
right,
they should be telling you to do it because they know that you're capable of doing it. So she's getting into a deeper and deeper mess through the psychotherapist, even though the promise was that it was going to get better.
You're setting a certain standard for somebody that may not be applicable to them, and you're making them live up to this standard. And the psychiatrist is doing that. He's setting this standard that's making her think more that she's not acceptable as a human being.
Yeah, and they don't realize they're doing it. They're all hypnotized together. So, so it's a mess. You know, you'd be better off going to, and it's hard to find these, but you'd be better off going to an ethical fake psychic who's posing as a real psychic that has a set of ethics, because they're going to give you better results in the way that they do what they do. It's a form of mentalism that's amazing.
Because they'll just have an ethical code that they just go by when they talk to you, as opposed to trying to set a standard. They're just saying, well, this is what the ethical path would be. Yeah.
Instead of believing themselves to have powers, which essentially the psychiatrist and the psychiatrist believes himself to have the power of discernment and diagnosis, physical diagnosis, even though how many have actually studied the chemicals of the brain to be able to honestly say it's a chemical imbalance, almost zero. So not only that, but then, you know, they believe that the education they've undergone qualifies them to be in that position to give that kind of advice and help to people. There's a train going by. Hopefully it won't be too loud. It's short. That's another little trick, is the sounds are a key. They're a trick, a hack to becoming present. All you have to do if you feel like you're drifting off into thoughts is just put your focus on the sounds. The sounds are happening right now. So if you're hearing the sound, you're present. You have to be present to hear it.
Brings you back to the present. Yeah. Wow. That's nice. Yeah. That's a nice trick. I like that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It works very, very well. So the come home to the body, end the fake suffering of the mind. Now the caveat in here, that might be the fourth step, but not really, is realizing yourself that there's nothing to live up to. There is absolutely nothing to ever live up to. There's no standard, except if you have a mission, then do the things that put your mission forward, but you still don't have to live up to being a thing, to being anything but what you already are. You already are a thing. You don't have to have thoughts about it, ideas about it, evaluations of it. You just are.
Right.
A guy who writes 30 books, and we all think of him as an author, a prolific author, he probably isn't sitting there all day while he's having lunch just thinking, I'm an author. I'm an author.
Yeah, right.
Eat my sandwich. Like, it's not, you're not an author. You just wrote 30 books. That's just a convention for introducing someone to someone else. He does a bunch of other things besides just writing the books. You know, does that mean he's a bicyclist while he's on the bike? Does that mean he's a professional driver if he drives a car every day more than he writes? I mean, so those are just conventions, but they're not in the realm of tangible experiential reality. So,
gotcha.
So having goals for it to become a thing isn't really that useful, as it is to, I really want to help people, and then let that drive guide you to whatever is the best way that you can do it. And reality will present you with that if you're there to hear it and see it. So there's nothing to live up to. That's a really important milestone you arrive to after you have come home to the body and gotten over a lot of the fake suffering in the mind. You realize there's nothing to live up to, which sets you free to explore with curiosity, like youthful curiosity everything that's happening in life. That's kind of like the caveat.
As a caveat. So that's an effect that happens after
it'll happen,
you're able to release
like,
this fake suffering. You realize
Yeah.
that there's actually nothing to live up to, and you're just kind of going on what you want. You set a vision for yourself, you set a goal, and you just do it, and you don't think about it. You don't put labels on it. You don't put a expectation or some type of frame around it. You just go and do it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then the third big step is really embrace your life as an endless unfolding adventure. So the reason I say endless is because it implies, and I don't have proof necessarily, but I have experiences that lean in this direction, but that the endless nature of consciousness seems to be how things work. To me, I might be, disappointed if I die and everything just disappears, but I won't be around to notice that disappointment anyway. But it seems to me that consciousness is endless, that it continues regardless of the bodily aspect of it. I'm not banking on it or anything because I already love reality no matter what happens. But but I say endless because I want to imply that you can look beyond just this seemingly one life. Yeah. And so you embrace your life as a constant unfolding adventure. And the reason I say that is the definition of adventure is that it's an experience in which you don't know how it will end. You don't know how it will turn out.
Right.
That's what makes an adventure different than any other experience. And so every single moment and every single day of our life is defined by that. You do not know what's around the corner. You have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
But without coming back home to the body, without getting over the suffering, without accepting that this is an adventure, we end up building a tomb of familiarity. It's a term I like to use. A tomb. We live in a tomb of familiarity where it's the same stuff on the walls, the same meals, the same TV shows, whatever, the same events day after day that make us pretend that things aren't constantly changing and evolving and growing old and all this.
So there's this idea of setting yourself in this little box where you're stuck on the familiar. That's almost like providing yourself an escape, a way of ignoring the fact that things are just constantly changing.
And that's why people are afraid to break up in a relationship. That's why people are afraid to leave a job or afraid to leave a certain city, afraid to do the things they really want to do because they think they're going to lose something out of that tomb. But what they don't realize is that all you can do in life is gain. So the embracing the life as the constantly unfolding adventure means that even when there's a complete disaster, even if there's an apocalypse starts to happen, which I didn't expect it, but it looks like that could be on the way. At least in the US.
2020 is shaping up for that, right?
But yeah, it's even in that type of scenario, you can be present, you can live, you can enjoy it, you can always have this sense of celebration. That's another way I'd put it. This embracing life as a never-ending adventure.
Nice.
Is the same as what I call become a celebrationist. And what I mean by that is you reserve a little portion of your awareness that at all times is responding to life with a sense of appreciation and celebration. So let's say you just got broken up with, and the same day you lost your job, and you're even going to write a country song about it, and someone smashed your guitar, and you lost your house, whatever it was, all this stuff happened, and you're essentially feeling a lot of pain or suffering. You can still, in the back of your mind, keep a part of your awareness that says, oh man, look at what Garrett's going through right now. This is really intense. Look at the texture of this experience. It's so raw. The body is like just vibrating and full of all this life, or you could be at a funeral and thinking like, wow, look at the immensity of grief and feel the visceral nature of that experience and realize even that it's a rare experience to grieve someone very close to you, and that in a certain sense it's another prize. It's like a it's like a profound human experience. So you can keep a sense, and it's not diminishing it, it's actually upraising all these experiences, so you can enjoy the beauty of everything instead of just
like you're feeling alive.
Yeah,
like,
and not
regardless if it's grief or whatever it is,
it.
you're still feeling like it's causing you to feel alive. You're not like there's no like numbness, roboticness. It's the actual feeling of being a human, being alive, and having a rich experience.
By having that appreciation and celebration going on, you end up allowing yourself to go more deeply into the grief, more deeply into the experiences of life, knowing that you're okay, even though things have gone very differently than you expected. So you end up experiencing life much, much more deeply and processing those things much, much more quickly than you would if you were trying to put on a show, you know, trying to act like how you're supposed to act at a funeral or whatever it is.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. That makes a lot of sense. Because otherwise, I guess, like, you're just going back to the whole armoring thing. Like, you're trying to act a certain way because it's like you're not letting yourself feel the situation fully. You're just latching onto a programmed way of thinking that you feel will guide you through the situation, as opposed to actually living in the moment and getting the full breadth of the situation.
Yeah, instead of like, why me, you know, instead of this why me thing, it's like just a sense of amazement that you have existence at all. It's totally mysterious to exist. No one's figured that out, you know. No one has figured out. Science ignores it. It's like, it's totally amazing and mysterious just to exist. Wow. Just that alone is already like, whoa, what in the hell is going on here? You know, I exist? Like, whoa. This amazing to exist. So anything else that happens on top of that is it's already a birthday party every day. So
oh wow, yeah, that's a great perspective.
Kind of the attitude of like the Hillary Clinton losing the election. You know, she thought she was entitled to it, and then suddenly it didn't happen, and it's like, what? Why me? Someone must have cheated. Something's wrong with this.
Yeah,
you know, rather than accept me. And it's a good metaphor. You accept whatever is going on in reality. When you do that, then you can actually make your next move.
Yeah, you remain more limble and more relaxed and more able to actually adapt and go with the flow of life.
Mm-hmm. And that's the whole point. It's what everyone actually wants underneath it all, whether they know it or not, is this sense of flow, meaning you're being moved through your life, riding on the currents of your life smoothly, even through difficult times, even through the waves, through the rough patches, that you want to have a sense that you're being guided through life. It's what everyone wants. It's what people describe as happiness.
Wow. Yeah.
But they think they're going to get it through becoming okay, through getting the right car, through getting the wife with breast implants, or whatever it is that people think they want. But it's never going to happen, you know. And not even putting those things down, but saying you're not even going to be present to enjoy them because you're always concerned that you're not okay. And so everything you're doing is in service of one day becoming okay, and hiding to other people that you're not okay. So
wow. Yeah. And then life just becomes a big act, and you're not even really living life. You're just living in a shell.
Yeah. No one else is even watching the act. We're all on our own stage without an audience.
Yeah.
Worried about how our performance is going, you know.
Right. And when no one's really paying attention and no one cares because they're obsessed with their own act.
You're the only one in the audience. Yeah. So it's
like the actual routine of this system is about doing, you just give a couple, or give some exercises that the person does on a daily basis to kind of go through this process of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Or
the path right now, the best one that I've laid out is there's 12 days of training. I put in a group on Facebook. I'm going to take it down. It's going to be in an app that I have soon, but it's 12 days of training. That's just in the Command Z Academy for Mutant Training and Evolution on Facebook. And in there, there's, in the units tab, there's 12 days of training, and so you just follow through and do those 12 days, and that'll if you do it, then you'll know this stuff is for you or not. You just got to undo the bullshit, get over the suffering, get over the tension, get over yourself as fast as humanly possible, because your life is waiting for you on the other side of that, and it's absolutely beautiful and mysterious. Like, none of us know how it's going to actually unfold, and it's going to be totally amazing when it does. So
nice.
So yeah, probably that's a good point to end on. Is just do it, get over it, get over yourself, and you have this beautiful reality just waiting for you on the other side, where you never really have to suffer again, no matter what happens.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
Very cool, man. Well, it's
awesome,
nice to meet up with you.
Talk soon.
All right. Enjoy.
All right, guys, I hope you're enjoying the interview so far. In the next installment, we're getting right into the good stuff, the exercises. So keep those notifications on, and we'll see you then. Stay strong.